Hey guys, this is North back again with another video. Today's video, I'm coming to you with a part 2 of the most important fragrances in my collection. I'm going to give you another 10, probably a couple more at the end. It depends on how many I brought out. I never end up counting. So part 1 I've already posted of my most important fragrances in my collection. It's not one of those deals where it's 10 fragrances for life. These are just fragrances that either I really love or they're like significant as far as like the history of them, or they're very hard to find. So let's go ahead and get it going. Now I'm going to start out big with the first one. It's from the house of Christian Dior, and this one is Leather Oud. This is the 125 ml of Leather Oud. This is the original formulation of it. This one was originally released in 2010. And I forget when the reformulation was, maybe 2014, but there are some differences in the notes, at least the way that they're registered on Fragrantica. So some of the notes on it are civet, leather, oud, beeswax, birch, labdanum, clove, and vetiver. And this one is a very animalic leather oud fragrance. It's sweetened up a little bit with the beeswax, but it is a very challenging scent. It's one that I really wanted to hunt down and get. One of the places locally where I live, I put my name on the list and it did come in. I bought it retail without even thinking about it, and then come to find out it is the original 2010 formulation. So I was happy about that. So the first one is Leather Oud from Dior. The next fragrance comes from the house of Diptyque. This one I've talked about a number of times because it is the most realistic representation of frankincense or olibanum that I've smelled in a fragrance. And this one is called Trois. Trois was released in 1975, so it's a very old Diptyque fragrance. This one has myrtle, rosemary, myrrh, frankincense, pine tree, and caraway as some of the notes. But to me, again, it smells exactly like unburnt frankincense. I really love the color of the juice, and as you might be able to see, just the color of the atomizer of it coming through, it's changed colors. So this one is for sure one of the most important fragrances in my collection. I probably could have put this in the first video. Moving on. The next fragrance I want to mention is from the house of Jovoy. This one is Rose Millesimee. Have you heard of this one? It's one of the few extraits that are in the house. This is a centifolia or cabbage rose scent. Again, it's an extrait de parfum. It was released originally in 2017. Some of the notes on this one are rose de mai, spicy notes, apple, and white musk. This one is a jammy, sweet rose. So if you don't like jammy rose, you won't like this one. There really isn't much in it other than the sweetness and white musk on the dry down. But this is one of my favorite rose fragrances of all time. I'm happy to still have it in my collection. I need to wear it a little bit more. Moving on. The next fragrance is new to my collection, but ever since when I first smelled it, it definitely became a important fragrance in my collection. And this one is from the house of Yves Saint Laurent, and this one is the original Opium from 1977. I'm not sure what year this particular bottle is from. I haven't done my due diligence on that. Could be from the 90s. I assume. I got this full. I have decanted it so you can see some of it's missing in here, but I was very happy to get this splash bottle at a very good price. Again, it was originally released in 1977. Some of the notes on it are plum, sandalwood, tolu balsam, myrrh, opopanax, benzoin, vanilla. There are a bunch of other notes in it, but those are some of the notes. And this one is important for me because of the smell, but also I think within the history of fragrance, it marked a turn where people were trying to make fragrances that were representing the Orient, which would be the Middle East and the Far East. So I thought that was pretty cool. And in this one, I do have like the newer version of the EDP, and it is nowhere near the quality of this one. So let's keep it moving. The next fragrance is from the house of Stéphane Humbert Lucas. This one might have been the first one I purchased from the house. I can't remember, but it is the most important one out of the like 4 or 5 that I own. And this one is Oumma. I've done a review on this one. You can look this one up. It was released in 2013. Some of the notes on it are rose, tolu balsam, cypriol oil, and oud. And why this one is important in my collection is because it is the best representation from the few that I've smelled of what's called mahmoul bakur, which is like an incense that they use here in the Middle East. It's very, very popular. It's actually not that expensive, but it would just amaze me that I couldn't find a fragrance that smelled exactly like it. And incidentally enough, I found this one, and at the time it was the most expensive fragrance that I had purchased. But when I smelled it, I said, I have to have this fragrance. It's an important smell that I wanted. So let's go ahead and keep it moving. The next fragrance is one of the best chypres and fruity chypre fruities that I have in my collection. And this one is a vintage version of Femme Rochas. This is a discontinued eau de parfum splash from 1980. I haven't smelled the newest one, but I did have an older, it may have been an eau de toilette, but it was nothing near the quality of this one. I just love this scent. Like everything else, like I've mentioned, I decanted into smaller ones to spray, but I haven't worn this in a long time. But it is excellent. I got it for a great price, and especially it being older, it just has this character. Now, it was released in 1944. Some of the notes are the famous plum, ylang ylang, rose, oak moss, benzoin, and vanilla. And this is just a great fruity chypre. It does not smell exactly like Mixuko. It's it's sort of in the same kind of ballpark, but they're not interchangeable with each other. So this one is for sure a important fragrance in my collection. I was even looking to see if I could find another like vintage bottle of it, and they're not going for crazy prices. So let's keep it moving. The next fragrance I want to mention is from the house of Parfums Dusita, and this one is Issara. This is one of the 3 or 4 fragrances that she has made in Extrait de Parfums. This is one of my favorite fragrances. It opened my mind up to not just judging something based off the notes, just trying it out. And this one I believe is maybe a Fougère. I'm not exactly sure of the classification, but it was released in 2016, and some of the notes on it are sage, pine needles, tobacco, cumarin, vetiver, and oak moss, along with some other notes. And this one is just a beautiful scent. This is something I wish came in a 100 ml bottle, and it is for sure one of the most important fragrances in my collection. Moving on. Back to the house of Dior. This one, I believe I found out about either early this year or late last year. It might have been early this year, but it quickly jumped up into one of my favorite summer fragrances. This one is super slept on, and this one is called Eau Sauvage Cologne. As you see the white belt around here. This one is halfway gone. I do have a backup bottle of this one. Eau Sauvage Cologne was released in 2015. The notes on this one are bergamot, grapefruit, mandarin orange, petitgrain, hedione, galbanum, and vetiver. And this is a long-lasting citrus scent. I don't know why this is talked about more. You don't see hardly any reviews on it, but this is if you like citrus scents, if you like summer scents at all, this is one that I believe you have to try, and you have to get in your collection before they maybe discontinue it or something. There's no reason why this shouldn't be as popular as Dior Homme Cologne. It's much better. It's a better quality. Everything all around, and I love Eau Sauvage. I love Dior Homme Cologne, but this one just beats it out every time. Moving on. This one is another new discovery that is a summer scent. This one's from the house of Chanel. You may know what it is, and this one is Paris Deauville from the Lizzo collection. Now, this is my favorite one. Biarritz is pretty good. If I come across that one for a good price, I may pick it up. but I have 3 bottles of this one. That's how much I love this. This is an awesome summer scent. It's classified as a chypre for some reason, but Paris Deauville was released in 2018, and some of the notes on it are basil, lime, Sicilian orange, bergamot, lemon, petitgrain, hedium again, and patchouli. This one isn't as long lasting as Eau Sauvage Cologne, but just the uniqueness of being able to use citruses in a different way with different notes just made this a love for me. This is a very important summertime fragrance in my collection for sure. It's sophisticated but also simple at the same time. Moving on. The next fragrance is from Armani Privé. This one is important in my collection just because of how, not unique as far as the smell, but unique as it is hard to find. It's a unicorn in my collection. It's probably my most hard to find discontinued fragrance, and this one is Ambre Orient. I do not see this posted on eBay or anywhere. It was released in 2010. The story is that usually when they discontinue one, they replace it with something. So something was discontinued and then this came out. And once this was discontinued, then Mare Imperial, my most popular, most loved Armani Privé, came out after that. So again, it was released in 2010. This one has labdanum, vanilla, amber, pink pepper, sandalwood as some of the notes. Now the thing about this one is that it smells very similar to the other amber scents with the word amber in the name, like Ambre Sultan, Amber Absolute, even the O'Hara from Stéphane Humbert Lucas. It has that labdanum heavy amber accord in it with the vanilla. So it isn't that unique of a smell, but it's just extremely hard to find. And that's why I have O'Hara, but I don't have many of the other ones. Like I got rid of Amber Absolute just because the composition of them are so similar, especially with that labdanum and vanilla heavy amber accord. So I just kept this one. And this one is an important one in my collection that I'll keep. That was 10 fragrances that are important in my collection for my part 2. I'll mention a couple more. The next one I want to mention is from the house of Gucci, and this is another discontinued fragrance. This is Gucci Pour Homme 2. This is like considered a tea fragrance. And this one is one I regret only getting the 50 ml of, because at the time, he was selling them for a decent price, but my thinking was that the 50 ml was probably a harder one to find, so that's why I bought the 50 ml. But I do wish, very rarely, but this one I do wish I had got the 100 ml of this one. Gucci Pour Homme 2 was released in 2007. Some of the notes on it are violet leaf, black tea, tobacco leaf, myrrh, and olive tree. And it's just an awesome scent. I remember one of my colleagues wearing it when I picked him up, and I was like, wow, that smells like Gucci Pour Homme 2 in my head. And then I asked him what it was. Definitely not thinking he was wearing Gucci Pour Homme 2, because he's not like into fragrances the way that I am. And sure enough, he was like, it's this Gucci one, but I only have this much left of it. And I said, yeah. So this one, again, is an important fragrance. I wish I had the 100 ml of it. If I were to come across it at the same price that I originally was offered it, then maybe I'd get it. But until then, I'll just stick with this. Moving on. The next fragrance I'll mention is from the house of Guerlain. This is one of my favorite Guerlain fragrances, and it's one of the most slept on ones in my opinion. And this is Chants de Roms. And this is a cheaper floral fragrance. When I look on Fragrantica, people say it reminds them of Colette from Hermes, but this one is so much different than that. It has some similarities because it does have aldehydes. It was originally released in 1962. It has aldehydes again: plum, honeysuckle, ylang ylang, heliotrope, benzoin, and vanilla. And when I remember before I bought it, when I smelled it, I said, this smells familiar, which means it was like this cheaper accord that I didn't have a vocabulary for, but I liked it for some reason, and so I picked it up. And if it came in an extrait, I'm not sure, but vintage bottles of it aren't going for crazy prices. But this was something I would opt in getting an extrait for, because I like it that much. I love it that much, but it just wasn't in the top 10, I guess. All right, moving on. The next fragrance is again from the house of Guerlain, and this one is Monsieur de Monsour, the handkerchief of a gentleman. This is a discontinued one that smells similar to Jicky. I believe it only came in an eau de toilette. It does smell very similar to Jicky, but it is not exactly the same. This was originally released in 1904. Some of the notes on it are lavender, lemon verbena, neroli, vanilla, oak moss, and iris. But it's a great, sophisticated scent. I like it. I've sold probably like 3 or 4 bottles of this because it was pretty available here, but most of the bottles have gone. I still probably can find a couple, but I do have 2 backup bottles of this myself. I still need to wear it more to see how much it fits with my particular personality, but I like it all the same, and I think it's an important fragrance to have in my collection. Moving on. Now, I could mention more fragrances, a few more, but I'm only going to mention one more. And this one is from the house of Miyake. I'm not at all a fan of Miyake perfumes, but this is was an important one for me. This is called L'Oud d'Issey pour Homme Yuzu. Now, this is another discontinued fragrance. I just remember looking for this, and this was before the fire they had here at the souk, and I found a tester bottle of it. And because I found a tester bottle, it was a Issey Miyake, so they don't go for very much, and I got it for a steal. I got it for maybe like $25 or something, and the prices on it aren't that crazy. They're like under 200, 150, 170, but that doesn't beat $25. And I always was into Yuzu. When I went to Japan, they had like Yuzu flavored candy, so I was just into it for that type of effect. And it's a great summer scent. I don't wear it that much because it is discontinued, but I do have some newer fragrances that are that have the note of Yuzu in it, and this one was released in 2014. I'm pretty sure that this is a little bit older than the couple other ones that have Yuzu in the note breakdown. And this one, of course, has, besides Yuzu's, citron, mandarin orange, ginger, nutmeg, and vetiver. And again, this is an important one in my collection. Even if it was full and I could sell it, I probably wouldn't, just of how I found it. Some of those things you can't pass up. I've sold a number of fragrances where I got them on that type of different types of scenarios like that, but they weren't as important to me as finding this, because this is the only one that I was able to find. So that's pretty much it, guys. These are 13 or 14 more of my most important fragrances in my collection. What are some of the most important fragrances in your collection? Please let me know in the comments. I want to thank everybody that watches and supports the channel, likes, comments, all the new subscribers. I finally made it to 1,500 subscribers, so that's really awesome. I want to thank you all. But again, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I appreciate you watching. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.